forbidden and banned, the bane of bureaucrats, exposing mainstream media's weapons of mass distraction.
Flying under the radar and dropping truth bombs on tyranny.
It's Liberty Now.
Kia ora, hello, and welcome to Liberty Now. I'm your host, John Bird, trainer, Piper Navy diver, and Liberty lover. This is the podcast for discerning minds and common sense. We like the truth, and we can think for ourselves. Thank you very much. Today, I've got a fantastic guest. We've been trying to connect for a while, and the fates or whatever has been frustrating our efforts, but we're doing it today. My guest is Michael Anderson. He is a historian who writes about contemporary American politics, and his books discuss factors that influence American views, including genetics, social environment, American history, and cultural trends. He's also the author of Tribalism, The Conservative Gene, and his most recent one, America's Counterfeit Democracy. So if we have time, I'd like you to talk about those books as well, Michael. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. So what inspired me to want to talk to you this time around was we've had some really good discussions, but you wrote this article called Now is a Good Time to Focus on Living Your Life. And with the fire hose of information that's coming at us from all directions and just so many, not just political, but social, environmental, it's real easy to get blackpilled nowadays and just kind of throw up your hands and give up. And we've got to realize there's only so much we can do, even if we are concerned about what's going on in the world. But what inspired you to write this article? What was behind that?
My noticing that social media was degrading and that there's more, involvement by individuals who either have pathologies or are trying to make money. I mean, it's very dark. As a matter of fact, I'm writing an article right now for Substack, and I'll send you a copy. Okay. Pathology on social media basically is my article, but I am pulling information from a recent academic paper that talked about the fact that social media is attractive to narcissists and other pathological types. They're drawn to it, and so they're becoming a larger component of the participation, which directly relates to the article we're going to discuss, because there's more and more negative content. And that's why I wrote this article, because people have to be careful they're not too influenced by what they read. And,
right.
And this is a great example. I mean, you can take a book out at the library, you could take out a novel or a crime story or something, and you read it, and it's a creative experience to read a book, and you are the generator of the reality of the book, because if the author is good, you can create the reality yourself as you read it.
Right.
Social media is like the opposite, because other people are trying to create your reality for you by making it look like the world is the way they describe it, which
Right.
it isn't.
Right.
So the more pathology that's there, the less likely their points of view or posts relate to reality.
Right.
So it's becoming more and more dangerous.
It is. And it's also dangerous in that it is much more controlled by corporate interests or government interests that do exert, as we found, control over these the social media environment. And we don't have it's also designed psychologically to be very addictive and to keep you there. It's all about keeping eyeballs.
Yep.
And it's because it's a multimedia experience. It's not just, reading something, but there's also video and audio, which makes it can be very engaging, but also hard to pull away from.
Yep.
Yeah. So your article talks about how to sort of, I guess, counter tactics to how to fight this. And, it's a lot of this is just getting back to the world that we knew prior to the internet, pre 1995 or so,
Yep.
before everybody had a computer or a smartphone or or a
And
tracking device.
you reminded me of an article I read yesterday that was very interesting. In the article, I think I'm going to paraphrase the title because I don't remember it exactly, but it said Gen Z is moving to the 90s. And basically, very interesting because a lot of people in Gen Z, a lot of reasonable, rational people are realizing how messed up things are with social
Mhm.
media. So
Mhm.
I in the article, there's a discussion between a bunch of people where they're talking about, we're sorry we didn't get to grow up before the internet.
Yeah.
Because when you hear about that, what life was like, it was much more enjoyable and satisfying than it is now.
Boy,
So
you nailed it. Yeah. I am so grateful that I can live, both half of my life, pre-internet and the other half post-internet. So people in our generation can really see the difference. But my kids, for example, just will never know the difference in a world without, everything being online.
and it's interesting. My kids, I think, have escaped that. They were born in '88 and '90,
Yeah.
so they're millennials. But I mean, there was no internet. Mid '90s is really when it got going. I have a whole story I could tell about that, which I won't waste time here. But I think that I'm an IT guy by profession, so we were always interested in technology at home. And I
Yeah.
remember like when AOL came out, and
Yeah.
AOL was the first website that you could go to get information. And
Right.
we used to log into it with a modem. And
Yes.
you hear that squeal when it
Yeah.
connected. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it didn't connect.
Right.
And my son at a very early age was interested in games, as probably every kid that age was.
Yeah.
But he we used to find a game on the internet that we could download, and it would like be a 1 megabyte game, which now
Right.
they're gigabytes, and it would take 2 or 3 hours to
Yeah.
download. So
Yeah.
he'd go to bed and wake up the next morning and say, "Dad, did that make it all the way, or do you have to start over?" I mean,
Yeah.
so it's just they've escaped that. They don't. I mean, both of my kids are in technology themselves, and they both. Well, my daughter's a graphic designer, but she's also in IT. My son is a infrastructure engineer, so he lives it. But she doesn't game very much. He does just with friends, though. Like his
Mhm.
college best friends and stuff. It's a community thing because they all get out and play and they talk and that stuff.
Right.
It's more like that.
Yeah.
But they grew up playing outside. They grew
Yes.
up. I mean, I remember it was halfway or 2/3 of the way through their grade school before people started saying kids couldn't walk to school alone anymore because it was too dangerous.
Yeah. I remember that probably,
Late in the
late
late
80s.
90s.
Yeah. Early 90s.
Yeah, yep.
And
So
it's sad. Yeah. It's, and, it's funny. It feels like the pendulum is swinging a little bit again, as it tends to do when there's enough of a momentum, or it becomes obvious enough to enough of the population that there's this. It does feel like there's a pushback. Like my kids are pretty aware, and I've always made sure that they get outside and do things. They'll never have the experience that I did when I was a kid, but I've done my best to make sure that at least they know how to do real world things. And I don't know if you remember a book back in the 80s, Megatrends by John Naisbitt. Do you remember that title?
I don't think I read it though. I
He
remember it.
it was an interesting theory. What he did was he digested information from multiple sources, and he had a team of people like reading articles and looking at the trends. The idea behind it, especially in the newspaper media, newspapers, remember those? They would read the headlines daily and weekly and monthly. And the idea is that there's only so much information you can fit into a newspaper, and the less important stories kind of fall off to the back. The most important things are in the front of the paper and on the front page. And looking at that, they would see where the public eye was most interested. They would listen to radio, magazines, newspapers, and sort of digest all of this. And they came up with trends to see where things were going, kind of in the public consciousness before individuals really understood where things were going.
Right.
And it was really interesting. Anyway, he was talking about back then the big push towards technology, and this is even in the 80s, like nothing like it is now. And there was a resurgence in things like the opera and museums, and coffee shops were becoming a big thing. Like coffee was even becoming automated, but people were wanting to go to a barista and talk to a person. And so it sort of pushed the popularity of, the barista behind the counter, somebody you could talk to. And then of course the internet came and blew all that away. And now it feels like there's almost a pushback again towards wanting to get back to the sort of real world. I even saw a video yesterday about it was a bunch of scenes from the 80s, and these different characters looking like they were from the 80s, saying, hey, the 80s is calling it wants you back. I think it was a Facebook ad or something. It was talking about, remember the days when it wasn't about gaming or screen time. It was about hanging out with friends, staying out till night, riding your bikes all day, that kind of thing. And the funny thing is that I think it was all AI generated characters.
Great.
But it does, I think, express the desire, the desire to be human, right? And to do real things.
Well, I have this theory that everything organizationally that man does eventually corrupts itself. And when things corrupt themselves, they have to spring back to reality. And I mean, small example, I don't know if you agree, disagree, but 100 years ago, somebody decided what are the best books ever written, by the great authors, Pride and Prejudice, the long list, Dostoevsky and Dickens and all those. And I would say that should still stand. And because that stood the test of time, and a very large number of people believe those were well written, which was the key.
Yeah.
And the authors were really good. And then when you throw all that out and you try and substitute something that's superficial instead of that, people eventually realize it's superficial. I mean, they'll want some substance in what they're learning.
Right. So, and these are important ideas. These authors wrote about things that were real and deep and philosophical, and about human nature. We don't see any of that in pop culture today. If you use music as an example, you listen to the lyrics and things that are the themes of the songs. Now it's lately, it's the last probably 5-10 years, it's all like resistance, burn it all down, me, and just elicit everything. Nothing about the songs like the Eagles used to write, or just life things. And I hope we do see a pushback towards that reality. My youngest brother actually just told me about a cool book he discovered, wondering if I'd read Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. I was like, Oh yeah, I read that a long time ago. And that's what's been missing. I think that's what been part of what has allowed the brainwashing is the discouragement in our institutions from reading those important books.
Right.
That's not part of the curriculum generally.
Right.
You have to seek it out,
Yep.
yourself now.
Yep. All right, let's go on the list. So
Now is a good time to start focusing on living your actual life. And you made some really good points here of how we can do that. Number one on your list was get off social media. How do you do that?
Well, you can start it very simply. As I'm sure you realize, you could say on certain days, I won't use social media. Or you
Right.
could say, I'll do it 2 hours a day or something. The overarching thing of the article, John, and I'm not trying to avoid the answer to the question, but we all have an inner self and an outer self. And the inner self or inner life, internal life, which is our friends, our family, our wife, our kids, our neighbors, and work associates, basically. It's people we interact with physically. And the external world is the world we hear about through some media. And obviously politics is sort of in between, because like the parts of the world that aren't politics that are external can be interesting, but they don't impact us very much. Like, what are the movie stars doing? Where's their vacation spot or something? Politics is more important, but we have to realize we have to put ourselves in perspective as to how much influence we have over politics. It's the external world. And the things that are happening in politics are beyond our control, other than our voting.
Right.
And so when you mentioned my book Tribalism, and I talk about in that book about and it's debatable when it started, but something probably during the Obama administration in the United States, where
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Just real quickly,
Sure.
I got a low power warning. Hold that, bookmark that. I'm going to go plug the thing in.
Okay.
Okay. We're good. So during the Obama administration,
that's what tribalism started. So the country in America, we divided ourselves between right and left, and we're still in that doom loop. And the differences between right and left are exaggerated by social media.
Yes.
Because people, I mean, if you get on X and just read it, it's bomb dropping, left against right and right against left. That's it. And I mean, it just rants, and it doesn't really accomplish anything except create a lot of, I mean, if you're on one side or the other and you're sensitive to it, then you're going to be angry or depressed or something like that. So,
right. Well, the sensitivity comes from identifying too much with, as you bring up, tribalism becoming the left or the right becomes your social identity.
Yeah.
And so you can't criticize the politicians or either side, either party, without making it a personal affront to the person, like you're insulting the person. So I go off about this all the time. Don't care about the politicians or the party. Just look at the issues.
Yeah.
That's what we should be looking at.
Take personalities out of it. I mean, everything in I know you're in New Zealand, and so but you're an American, so I know I'm always talking about America because I don't know that much about New Zealand, but everything has become entertainment. I
Yeah.
mean, I lament the fact that all sports have become entertainment now. They're really not
Right.
sports anymore. They're really entertain. They pay people big money who can put on an exhibition, and like the baseball All-Star game, I don't even watch it anymore because all it is
Yeah.
an extravaganza. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's not even. They play baseball, but not really.
Yeah, well,
So
and also it's become a focal point for political views or narratives too,
yeah,
as we saw um, pre-COVID about, some of these athletes are getting paid by certain globalist interests to take a knee,
yeah,
and express their, personal
yep,
opinion, which really isn't, they're getting paid for it too.
yep. But
Um,
so the point of that turning off social media thing is to two things. One is remove a bad influence, limit a bad influence on your life.
yep,
Because I think anybody that is addicted to social media is getting a lot of bad information, but psychologically dangerous information. So you have to limit that. But part of that is also the right place for your focus is on your internal life, not your external life.
right,
If you're not
right,
if you're not playing with your kids because you're on Facebook all night, not a good thing. You're not only you're wasting your time on something that's useless, that's just you're drawn to for one reason or another, and you're excluding something much more important in your life. So that's not good.
right. Yeah, and it is a pull. I would say that's one of the things, the insidious things about all media, TV, social media, the internet, is it is constantly distracting you and keeping you from focusing on the internal. No time for self-reflection, and that's one of the things that is so critical
Yep.
to a good human nature.
Yep.
Um, so the next point you bring up is using your phone less, and we call it a phone, but it's not really a phone anymore. In fact, it's one of
It's a
the frustrating
computer.
things about this device is the phone may be ringing, and I'm having to scroll through trying to find, where is the actual phone before I can answer it, and half the time the call is disconnected before I can get to the
Right.
particular app. It's a
Yep.
computer.
Yep.
That's another
If I
distraction. And
if I were made king for a day and I had one wish, it would be give everybody a flip phone.
yes.
Because I know the value of be able to reach people by phone and
Yep.
associated text messaging if you can't get a hold of someone. That's important. You don't need the
Yep.
internet on your phone and you don't need games on your phone. Really.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I survived the first 35 years of my life without a mobile phone of any kind. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I lived that long. I think I can live without a computer in my pocket. And the other thing is, and people have grown numb to it, or they don't care, that it's a tracking device too.
Yeah.
It's following your every move. And I can't tell you how many times I've had a discussion about something in particular with the phone near proximity, and then I start seeing Facebook ads
Yep.
or other ads for the thing that we talked about, that I didn't touch the device. So that it's recording and listening.
Yep.
And we have a right to privacy and we need to protect it. And yeah, just leave the phone behind once in a while, at least.
I mean, and I got to qualify this statement because I have a tablet and I use my tablet for like watching YouTube and things like that. When my phone sits in my office and never leaves my office unless I leave the house. I don't carry my phone around me because I don't want to look at my phone. Everything is too small on my phone for one thing, but I don't want to use the phone for that. So
That's a great idea. That's a simple thing you can do. Is you made the point that the average person looks at their phone 144 times a day.
yeah,
So try to limit that. Just park it somewhere, pretend that it's a
Look,
plug-in corded
well, yeah,
phone.
you have to understand that how many things happen per day that are an absolute emergency that you have to have your phone there to look at in case that happens. Check
Right,
your phone once an hour.
right,
Don't have it with you, or have it every 2 hours or something like that. Or have
right,
if you get a notification that you got a voicemail or something, have it beep, whatever.
right,
You don't have to have it with you. And
right.
I think I told you the story that blew my mind. It made me really think more about this. Is my wife and I went to a local restaurant to have dinner, and we parked on a side street and came around the corner to the front of the restaurant, and there was a couple of long benches there, probably held 15 or 20 people total who were waiting their name for their name to be called to go in and eat.
Hmm.
Every one of them was looking at their phone. I
Yeah,
was shocked.
yeah,
Oldsters, youngsters, teens, everybody looking at their phone. You don't need to do that. Talk to the person you're there with. Have a
yeah.
conversation.
You're like walking into a crowd of zombies.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, and that's a really good one. Just using the phone less. That's probably the primary source of distraction these days. The
And I
mobile
will
device.
get I will get a flip phone at some point. They're coming
Yeah,
back, and more people are getting them.
yeah. You know what? I've actually seen. It's funny. I was looking not too long ago for a flip phone myself, like one of the old Nokia ones. I wanted something without GPS on it too, without tracking,
Yeah,
just plain calls and maybe texting.
yeah.
And I noticed the prices were going up a little bit. So obviously there's more demand for those now,
Hmm.
which is a good thing. Um, I'm not sure. I haven't looked, but there might even be some manufacturers out there, maybe some small ones that are starting to produce those phones again.
I think there
Um,
are. I don't. I'm
yeah.
not up on it, but I've been reading about it. And the other thing that's happening in schools here is cell phones are being banned by all the students. They're not allowed to have a cell phone in class. They can't. It can
Right.
be locked up or zipped up in your backpack, but it can't be showing at
Yep.
all.
Absolutely.
You get kicked out of the class if it shows. Or
100%. I agree with that. In fact, if I were a principal of a school, I would probably have them checked in at the office when they come
yeah,
in.
yeah. Put it
And
in your
you get
locker.
it at the end of the day. Yep.
Yeah.
Don't even have them with you. Um, which brings us to your next point, just decreasing your screen time in general. Um, have an occasional no TV night.
Yep.
Imagine that.
Yep. Well, my wife and I do it every Tuesday is no TV night, so we don't turn it on at all. We like go in our den and read, basically,
Right.
because we're both
There,
readers.
yeah, they're speaking of phones, this thing, I'm going to shut this thing up. Yeah, it's incredible.
But I brought that up, John, because TV, you got to lump TV in with social media in the sense that it's a time waster.
It
Because
is.
you take all your screen time, you're on social media, on your phone, and then you're watching 3 or 4 hours of TV every night. I mean, that you're
Right.
not doing anything else. You're just
Well,
like
it's also,
vegetating.
yeah, it's an opportunity cost. Think of like, people complain about, I don't get anything done, or I'm not, I don't make enough money, or, other things that I'd like to accomplish. Well, you're not sitting down writing your goals out or planning anything or planning your day when you're losing those hours
Yeah, and
that could be productive.
you're not scheduling time away from the TV to do the things that are on your list, which is what
Right.
I mean, because you have to make the list and then you have to decide, okay, where do I carve out this time?
Right. Right. I mean, just think about that, regaining 4 hours a day
Yeah,
back to your life. And the other insidious thing that most people probably don't realize is that TV itself, watching, and they've known this since the 50s, that it puts your brain into a certain state. I think it's in alpha waves where your brain becomes very suggestible. Advertisers know this very well, and so your mind is not really discriminating, and your subconscious is always accepting everything, and your higher alert state isn't filtering out a lot of the garbage that you're taking in,
Right.
which leads to all kinds of influences.
Right.
Probably not mostly good.
Yep. Yeah. It's over 5 years ago or so, maybe more, that we decided we're not going to watch commercial TV anymore because of the commercials. So we
Right.
only watch streaming channels. And I mean, the advertising there has become insidious because it's
Yes.
snuck in there. But like
Yeah.
you can watch a movie that might have 2 commercials and the rest of it's okay. So
Right.
you have much more control over it. And I mean, I have YouTube TV and you can record stuff and then skip through all the commercials when you play it back if you like. So,
Right. But
yes,
now they've got product placement. You can't even go to a movie. It's frustrating to pay a very high price these days for a movie and to watch blatant product
yeah,
placement
yeah,
throughout the movie. And I've seen some producers do it creatively in an entertaining way where they make it really obvious and funny.
yeah,
And you're like, well, okay, I can laugh at that. But more times than not, it's just, as you say, snuck in there, and you're watching a commercial basically that you've paid for.
right.
And yeah, so just another reason to just decrease your screen time.
Yep.
And then what you can do with your free time brings us to your next point is you're free to talk to people in person, talk to people every day. I mean, as you
This
say,
is
that's what,
right. This is a huge thing to me because I look at how what's the human being's day like now compared to prehistoric man. I mean,
right.
just big, and we were designed as the prehistoric man. So, I mean, and there's all kind. I mean, you're familiar with this stuff. I mean, people they have built-in mechanisms for detecting that people are liars.
Yeah.
That you don't deploy on social media where you can't even see who the person is, and they may not be the person you think they are.
Right. They
I
could be a
mean, we're
complete AI
yeah,
in artificial construct
right.
completely.
We were designed to move through life as a social being by working and communicating with other people. And there is a definite benefit to interacting with other people. You get to see facial expressions, you see body language, you make easier judgments. We're designed to do that. You can separate a nice person from a not so nice person pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
satisfying. I have a neighbor who's elderly, and I go over and see her on Wednesday nights, and part of it is her, getting more social interaction, but she's an interesting person. She used to be a chef, and all we do is talk. We don't do anything else.
Yeah.
And so that's, I find that very beneficial. People tell you stories that are amazing because
Yeah.
people have, I always say, I talk about being a historian, but I always say history's already happened, and history, the truth is stranger than fiction. There's so many things that
Well,
happen you can't make up
yeah.
that really happened. It's just amazing. So
Yeah, it is incredible.
yeah,
Some of my best stories are not mine, but things I've picked up from people just, traveling around, talking to people, man, just random people on the street, somebody you might think is a derelict bum. I have a 5-minute conversation with them, turns into like a 10-minute conversation. It's like, holy cow, what a life you have had. It's incredible. The things that you will learn. It's a lot more interesting than fiction.
well,
You
then you
just,
get this degrees of separation thing that's amazing that I don't even know how this operates. Like I'll give you a simple example, fast story. My wife plays golf. The other day she was playing golf and met another woman who was playing solo like her, and they decided to play together. So they get to know each other while they're playing. It turns out the woman her parents are from our hometown. Then no. Then it turns out that her let's see, they moved to Columbus. What was the other? They went. Oh, her parents went to the church that my parents went to when I was growing up. I mean, there were
Wow.
like 5 or 6 coincidences that came from a random event of meeting and getting to know someone. Because
Yeah.
a connection like that. It's
Yeah. You just reminded me of an experience I had. I can't remember if we talked about it before, but I did I attempted a bike ride around the world.
Yep.
It was a project, Pedal for Peace. So anyway, I had ridden all the way across the States through Portugal, and in Spain, I ran across a young man about my age, and he was living with his Spanish girlfriend there, and we got to talking, and he had gone to the same high school that I did, and I forget what else. I think he had we knew some of the same people. Oh, and he had worked as a bike messenger, which I had just finished doing in Washington, D.C. I think for the same company. It was nuts, like all the coincidences.
Yeah,
It
here
was,
I'll give you my ultimate story. It's a quick one. I had a high school friend went to the same church as us, so we were in the church youth group.
yeah.
So then he gets married, moves to Maine, and I'm still in Ohio, so I visited him once, but I've never seen him again. So I go to uh, I go on a trip, my first trip to Europe, and I went and hitchhiked. Landed in Frankfurt and went all the way to Vienna, and I stayed a week in Vienna and hitchhiked around stuff. And so I go to a piano recital in Vienna, and I'm sitting next to a person. I start talking to them, and they were in college, and I said, "What college?" And they told me, and they were friends with this friend of mine. So I went to Vienna and I'm sitting next to a person who knows one of my best friends. Then a couple of years later, I'm at Hilton Head and I'm on the beach and walked along the beach. And I think I was at college then or graduate school or something. And I walked by some girls. I thought I'd strike up a conversation. Where to go to school? The same school that my friend went to, and they knew him.
Wow.
I mean, so it's just like, but that happens. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
there are, and I read a book once one about American social character, and it was interesting because they talked about how Americans, when you meet somebody or get to know them or strike up a conversation, you get into this stuff about, oh, where are you from? Where are you from? And then you find these connections. They don't do that in any other country. I mean, like if you and I think you've been to Europe many times, haven't
Yeah.
you, or whatever? But like when you get on a bus in Italy, and I know Sweden's this way, people are down looking at the floor. They don't want to talk to anybody. They're not
Right.
social. And so, I mean, but Americans are very open like that. And I just think
Yeah.
they're curious about other people, and it's fun to talk to people and get to know them.
Yeah.
So,
It's a great thing. And it's almost like we have like a sort of, I don't like to use the word hive mind, but like a common consciousness. Like it's almost a human internet
yeah.
that, where we find these connections if you just get out there and talk to people. And yeah, that you won't get, that the internet itself tries to substitute, and there's just no substitute for that real human connection.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's artificial. It's not real.
Right.
We talked about the fact that you don't see the person, but if you
Right.
see the person, and then that's part of generating what you have in common.
Yeah.
Because you're attracted to them, you think, well, this would be a nice person to talk to. But it's a shame that so many people like go to parties or whatever social event it is and stand in the corner or They're talk to the person they came with and don't talk to anybody else.
Right.
I like to talk to many different people at the party that I just go up to people and say, hi, my name's Mike or something, because you get interesting conversations going.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah. Um, and another thing you were talking about in your article that when you're away from screen time, you have time to do something with your hands.
yep,
And I mean, maybe this is just in my nature, but I love working with my hands, anything in the shop, building, inventing, creating, just making things.
yep.
Um, Draw, play sports, exercise, do these things that help reinforce that mind body connection.
Yeah. And I mean, the mind body connection is critical to human life because it's the natural way to be. I mean, we
Right.
do think when we originally created it was to use our body to do the things to help us survive. And so you're using your brain to apply to activities you might participate in that are beneficial. And then now there's all this biological and nutritional stuff that's come out about how, and I don't know, I don't think we ever talked about this, but I this kind of changed my life to realize that people say, they got this or that health problem, and it's just I just got bad DNA. That's their answer for the reason.
Right.
You've heard
Yeah.
that before. Well, when the human genome was first completely coded, what they discovered something very important. The DNA can code for 100,000 proteins in your body, but there's only 20,000 genes. So what? So that because they assumed there would be 100,000 genes, but no. And
Right.
what that really leads to is the fact that your genes code for whatever you're telling them to code for. So if it's a negative thing, for example, you overeat carbohydrates.
Right.
And so then you develop insulin resistance because your pancreas is creating insulin all the time, and it's doing that instead of creating muscle tissue. You
Right.
know what I mean? So that's if you're laying around watching TV all the time and you don't exercise, you're telling your brain, well, I don't need my muscles anymore, basically.
Right. Right.
So that
And
that's
genetics gets passed on.
yeah,
And I think this gets into epigenetics, where we can actually change our genetics by experience, by the things that we do.
yeah, yep. So that's where I came up with the use your hands thing because thinking is one thing and lifting weights is another. But if
Yep.
you put the two together, I like woodworking too. I've made furniture in the past and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I do oil painting now, which is my sort of
Nice.
creative thing with my hands. And
Yeah.
so that's just, I have to create. I mean, I have this thing in me. I have to
Yes.
create. And I've always felt like my IT career was just a way to make money because it
Right.
wasn't creative to me. I mean,
Right.
you're managing a team of engineers and they're fixing things and all that stuff, but that's like rote or something. I mean, it's
Right.
not creative.
Exactly.
And that's why I
Well,
wrote my books because I had something to say and I thought I got to write this down because I
yes.
want to write.
Be productive. In fact, that's one of the things that I hammer on with my kids all the time is like, it's okay to consume entertainment and media and things sometimes, but you have to digest it and do something with it. You have to also produce. And I want you off the screens for a while, go do something, even if it's reading an actual book, but I want you to create, build, make, do
Yeah.
something in the real world that isn't just consuming.
Yeah, and the people that lie around and never exercise and watch TV, they get to retirement, they don't know what to do
Right,
because they
right.
have never developed. You have to have a hobby, an interest, or multiple hobbies, whatever. Using your hands is a great thing.
Yeah. In fact, there was a TED talk that I might put up the link for this in the show notes about an organism. I can't remember specifically what it was, like a sea squirt or something like that, a very small microscopic organism that is abundant in the oceans. And It has a very small rudimentary brain, and when it first hatches from an egg, it just goes drifting through the sea, and it looks for or bumps into something to attach to, like the hull of a ship or a piece of driftwood or whatever. Once it's made its attachment, the first thing it does is consume its brain and spend the rest of its life just sitting there consuming, like a barnacle or something, getting nutrients out of the water. But it
Wow.
doesn't, once it's attached and fixated somewhere, it doesn't need a brain anymore. And the speaker doing this TED Talk was making the point that we have such big brains because we are in a constantly changing environment, and we need to discern and learn and do things that require a lot of processing power. I mean, if you think about it, just looking at an object, from different angles, if it was a computer, it wouldn't know that the thing that you're looking at from one angle isn't a different thing from the other angle. But we have this native ability in our amazing brains. And that's part of what a big brain is for, is to go out and move and do things. So if you consider that, what's the result of not doing anything? Your brain is going to shrink.
Yeah. I would
And you
argue,
see that, right? In like cases with Alzheimer's and things like that, and people, like, so prevalent now.
I would argue that our brains are too developed because
develop.
they get us in trouble. I mean, like trying to contemplate the history of the universe, and there are things that we can't understand that we're trying to understand. And I mean, I don't know. Here's an example, like there's the attraction between men and women there's at least three different kinds. I think they're identified as three different. There's infatuation, there's just physical attraction. You call it lust, but I don't know if I'd really take it that far. And then there's love. And
Right.
so each of those is generated from a different part of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And the lust part comes from the old, I mean, they talk about us having a lizard brain. So we have a lizard brain with a mammal's brain on top of that, and then a human brain on top of the mammal's brain. I mean, just additional developed portions that made the brain bigger and more complicated. So we can get infatuation, lust, and love confused because they compete with each other in our brain. And I'm just explaining that as a simple example of complexity and trying to deal with it.
But we have these big brains if we would use them creatively and rightly. We are capable of so many amazing things. I mean, look at what we've accomplished so far, the good and the bad. But we can focus it. One of my favorite sayings is, and your article sort of alludes to this, is your mind is a garden. Your thoughts are the seeds. You can grow flowers or you can grow weeds.
Yep. Exactly.
It's up to you.
Yep.
And that actually leads neatly into your next point. Think about your internal life rather than the external.
Yep. And that you should take stock of your family life. I don't know what the frequency would be, 6 months or something, but make sure you do that and say, am I the best parent? Am I the best husband? Have I drifted off into some behavior, like I'm building model trains in the basement and I spend every night down there doing that, and I'm not with the rest of my family? And I mean, it's all about, going all the way back to Socrates, nothing in excess, everything in moderation. It's trying to create a balance. So I'm just suggesting that rechecking the balance occasionally is a good thing.
Right. We've instituted a thing, which we drift in and out of, but we've consciously thought about this too, is, spending time with family. And so we've just said, okay, Wednesday is games night. That's a
Yeah.
good way to get away from the TV, and we're going to play a game. And each night we'll let a different person pick their favorite game,
Yeah.
and we'll just, have fun
That's
and
great. That's
interact.
great. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. We used to take a lot of stock in the family eating together when our kids were little. So every
Yes.
night, no matter what, now that's before travel sports teams and stuff, and my kids wouldn't have been good enough to be on those teams anyway, but we made sure that all four of us were together for dinner every night. And then I read sometime later, maybe years after that or something, that the average family is together 2 nights a week for dinner.
Yeah.
It's just not, I mean, because there's a social opportunity. What happened today? How are you doing? Like there's just it's great.
Yeah.
You can do it.
And it's showing you're caring about them. And by extension, your kids are going to learn that it's important to care about other people, which they're not going to get that if they haven't received that in their, early family life. It just contributes to further decay in society.
Yeah, you can't get that from social media.
Absolutely.
There's
Right.
no
Well, social
caring
media,
coming through the wires.
right. In fact, social media takes away from that
Yeah.
thing. And I think this is well known by the people at certain levels who are pushing that as well. But yeah, that's how we grew up. We would always have dinner together when we were younger. And, we've tried to continue that with our family. We do that every possible night. It gets more difficult as the kids get older.
Yeah.
And they've got their own driver's license and stuff. But we've established that. And I
Yeah.
think it's ingrained in them,
Mhm.
And your final point is about focusing your political anger. Talk about that.
Okay, well, that's where the tribalism thing comes in because there are people. I mean, if you look at either tribe, you see it has various types of members. Each tribe has fanatical ideologues who believe that everything in the tribal belief system is the truth, and there is no truth in the other tribe. But then you get people who want to be part of something important. And so they join the tribe for that, which isn't necessarily a good thing.
Right.
You could put, wanting to be important, you could use many different avenues to express that apart from being in a tribe. And then there's people in the tribes who are lazy. If I'm in this tribe and I know the tribe's ideology, I don't have to think anymore because if some
Right.
the question about is Trump good or bad, I know the answer. I don't have to think about what he's doing. I just have to mimic the tribe, which
Right.
that's the dangerous group because they're totally swayed by, I don't know, the need to be part of an ideology, and that replaces thinking.
Right.
It's not a good thing.
Well, and the other aspect is that it becomes emotional. And when we're in a highly aroused emotional state, we can't think rationally. It has to do with the amygdala, I think, is the center of the brain that allows us to respond, in a fight or flight and,
That's what it is.
in emergencies, but it shuts down all rational internalizing or thinking about, the bigger picture. And again, this is a tool of politicians and the globalists who would like to see us returning to a state of neo-feudalism. That if they can get us fighting with each other and not thinking rationally, trying to push us away from the enlightenment that brought us to this point in the first place.
Exactly. I don't know if we talked about this before, but conservatives have a larger amygdala than liberals do. They do. It's documented.
They did funny.
They did it with MRI studies, and so and liberals have a different part of the brain that is more developed than conservatives, and that part is the part that handles complex decision making. And for that reason, liberals are comfortable with change, and they don't mind change, and they like to think through complicated solutions, whereas conservatives are gut driven, basically.
Yeah.
But they're circumspect because they're amygdala focused or influenced. they're more circumspect, so they don't like change without a good explanation, because to them
Right.
change is dangerous.
Right. Change is okay if you can rationalize it. There's
Yeah.
a good reason for it, and that would be that the first accusation that progressives, by the very name, is there is no stasis, no foundation. It's just change for the sake of change constantly. There is no end point. It all,
Yep.
and that's a very Marxist philosophy too,
Yep. Yep.
is the eternal ongoing the struggle, right?
Yes.
And so we
Or
can never come together on anything. There's no point in tradition or the things that have created. I mean, a society, that term is like um, a group that has common agreements, like a social contract and things that they agree on. And
yeah.
you can never have that if there's no fixed point. It's just constant
Well,
change.
the left believes all traditions should be destroyed because they are the elements that produce the unequal society. But what they don't
Right,
realize is man is naturally unequal. I mean,
right,
in prehistoric days, the natural, and this is a thing about conservatives that's been documented. Conservatives are okay with inequality. They don't like, people starving or anything like that, but they're okay with inequality because they believe it's natural. If you put a group of people together, there are some people who will be smarter, stronger, or more, I'll say, better salesmen, more charismatic, let's say, and those people tend to rise to the top. And what else is important is about that is there's a lot of people that don't want to be leaders. You could
right.
take a group and
By
you
their
could,
nature,
ta- you
and
know,
that's okay.
you can take 10 people and they may probably have a couple leaders or two that share the lead. The other 8 are happy. They don't want
Right,
that. They're happy knowing which direction the ship's going in, and they'll go with it.
right.
And that's
I think
such a,
nature has a sort of distributive nature, like different skill sets are distributed um, around the population, so that we'll have a balanced mix of the
yeah.
right skills and talents and desires.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
the funny, odd case about that is left-handed people.
uh
10% of the people are left-handed, but it's a random, at one point it was like a random gene mutation or something. Because when you think about it, like you can't have, well, the phalanx, which was the Greek army's system of battle, you
oh,
can't
right,
have any lefties.
right,
So I mean, there's so many reasons or left-handedness, it works against teamwork in the human race. So it's
right.
just an oddity that that happened.
Right. And it's interesting, like this gets into sort of the physical manifestations that lead to um, worldviews, or which in turn I think lead towards political leanings. But you brought up the point about the amygdala, and it reminded me of a study that was done where I can't remember what university, but they did a couple of just basic measurements, physical measurements, and then tried to see if there was a correlation. Again, we're not talking about causation, just a correlation between political leanings. And one of the things was bicep arm measurement in men. And they found that men with larger arms tended to be more conservative
Yep,
or
not
Republican leaning.
surprising.
And yeah, and it's funny, like, and you would get somebody who's a liberal screaming about how outrageous and flawed that is. But if you think about it from a psychological perspective, someone who is physically less strong or weaker than the general population is going to feel more vulnerable and dependent on a daddy or a
Yeah,
government or a
yeah,
system, right? And somebody who's more physically capable and able is going to be naturally more independent and, self-guided.
Yeah, you reminded me that the Democratic Party did a big like retreat. I don't know when that. I think it was during the election before November. About they're losing a lot of young men who went to the Republican Party because there's a lot of men who like strong men who would be attracted to Trump. Okay.
Right.
And the feminization of men on the left, I mean, is an issue. So at this retreat, they did this whole like workshop about how to talk to men because they don't know how. And I mean,
Wow.
they do a commercial with Waltz changing the oil in his car because they want you to think the vice presidential candidate he's a real man. He's got a plaid shirt on. He's a real man. He's like the Republicans. So you should like the Democrats too. It's just they don't, the fact that they have to think about how to relate to men.
Right. That's very telling. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. It froze for a second there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very telling on a couple different levels. One, that they are disconnected from reality, as I would think, but also it's kind of hypocritical if they are saying, "Hey, look, we need to appear more masculine and do these manly things." Well, that's counter to their entire narrative, is that
white supremacy. That's their narrative.
Right. And also misogyny.
Yeah.
And Hollywood is pumping out all these girl boss movies and just brainwashing young men and women into thinking that, the average woman can go and kick the ass of a 6'2" man. It's like, there may be martial arts. I'm saying there's always exceptions to everything, but this is not the norm.
Right.
But that's what we're being subconsciously led to believe through all kinds of media. And again, this is not by accident. It's part of the divide and conquer strategy and feminizing men, because that's what the Vikings did, when they first, or the Nordics, when they first conquered a village. Did they go after the women and children first? No, they went and slaughtered all the men.
Yeah.
That's what is happening to us on a psychological level for the last 20 years or more. And if we're just aware of it, if we just kind of step away from all of our personal feelings about politics and everything, and just take the bigger global view, look at the big picture, you'll start to see all these things connecting. And I think it makes it easier to focus on the things that matter.
Yeah, and I didn't really give you an answer to my last point.
Yes, let's hear it.
And the answer is put politics in your life in the right perspective, which is basically what candidates stand for issues that you support. Nothing else, not personalities, not who is it, not the tribes or anything like that. And vote according to what's going to make your vote count. In other words, be an educated voter, understand what the issues are and who stands for what, who's lying and who's telling the truth, and make your choice. That's all you can do. Because if you're an uneducated voter, your vote's wasted. Right.
And even if you have voted with the party that you have typically supported, regardless of the issues, if you will at least hold them accountable, and I'm talking about Democrat or Republican, hold your candidate accountable for the issues that you think they're voting wrongly on, not just the president, but our representatives, because they will feel the fire if enough of you, push them. And at least then we might push both of our parties, if we're so married to them, at least more towards a centrist cooperative view.
Well, that's what's
more moderate.
This is the most interesting time in history. You should pat yourself on the back because you're living in, because, and there's there's things I don't like about Trump, but the thing I
Yeah.
do like about him is, I mean, he created a populist movement.
Right. Sorry, you froze again there. Oh,
Did you lose it?
yeah, your video dropped out. Continue where you were from. Trump created a populist movement.
That is going. He's doing so many things that have never been done before by any president, which tells you the others all just played the establishment game.
Right.
Right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Interested in doing things for the people than the establishment. That's why the establishment wants to destroy him, including the Republican establishment, because he's playing in their toy box.
Yes, exactly. And man, we are talking about living in a historic time. We are seeing potentially some actual indictments coming down on their collusion, and
Yeah.
their conspiracies are a real thing.
Yep.
They're not all just theories, but we have seen so much corruption. And I think the American public and the world are screaming for justice right now. And if Trump can bring about just a few high level indictments and maybe some prosecutions of these criminals, we have all the evidence. We just have to get a willing judicial system to, prosecute.
Right.
I think it will be a turning point.
Yep.
I'm very hopeful.
Yep.
So we'll see where this goes.
Mm-hmm.
But as you say, there's only so much we can do what's within our control, and I think we need to focus that, especially for the people that get like us, who get so absorbed into politics. It can get very angering and frustrating, and it's a long game. But if we will focus on our own internal selves by doing these things that you recommend, and getting away from the social media and the screen time, and then focusing your time on your families, eventually we will have the kind of society that we can all be proud of, where
Yep.
we're putting good emotions, thoughts, and by extension, our families, our kids are going out and, influencing the world in a positive way. It's
Yep.
not immediate.
Nope.
It's the long game, but if we'll do that, I think we can improve the world.
Yes.
Michael, what's the best way for people to follow you and your work, what you're doing?
My website, Mike Anderson's Books, and with an S at the end, and Books with an S. That's my author site, and link to Substack, link to the other social media, descriptions of my books. You can buy the books or read about them on the site. So everything's there.
Okay. Mike Anderson's
Books.com.
books.com.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I'll put that link up there, folks. So yeah, don't worry about writing notes or anything. I'll put everything in the show notes for you, and I'll include some of the links about the things we talked about. I think you'll find very interesting. And if you have found this podcast interesting or useful, please share it. I think we're talking about some good common sense things that we can do to improve politics in the world. None of us is going to solve it by ourselves, but together we can, do the right thing. So be good, do the right thing, and keep asking questions. Take care.